by those other beings who ultimately are doing what? Creating an environment of shame, blame, and guilt surrounded by propaganda, so we can no longer go back to our natural birthing orders, back to our natural order, living on the land, instead of being disconnected in the cities, disconnected from dream world, connected into materialism and consumerism, and not allowed to have a social structure that's a patriarchal dominated society, but a mutually accepted society, where equity and equality for all kind is that actual equity and equality.
Wow. That's profound.
It's very profound, and it's important that people understand that, you know, we are in a time where our belief system means everything.
Everything, and our very biology depends on that, and our very strength. I also heard in a different chapter of our lives, one of the reasons politicians so seldom come up with their promises once they're elected, it's because just the fact of revealing those plans and ideas woke up, of course, saboteurs from the inside, but also those entities you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Those entities can be quite nasty, and we are dealing with them at this point in our history. This is the end time. Just one second here. I'm going to read you something. This is another part of what I do. It's the teachings. It's called Spiritual Contract Revocations. And I've come up one for the Divine Feminine, which Hope Girl helped co-write with me, and the rest that I wrote myself. But the one I'm going to read is the one for the Sacred Feminine. And it is very, very powerful, and there has been a lot of women out there that have really, really liked this document. Just one second. Let me grab the latest one here. Wrong document here. Just a second. There we go. Now, some people in this radio show have heard me do this, but I want your perception of this. Okay? I call to all spiritual contracts that exist within my past, present, and future beings, selves, in existence in this dimension and time stream, and all time streams above and below the earth-centric sine wave of coexistence. At this exact moment, in the ever-present co-creating moment, I summon all DNA lineage ancestors to create a unified, proper spiritual court of equity, so I may find remedy and resolve with all contracts that have inserted fine print during the pre-birth and birth process. I call forth the proper spiritual court of equity to hear my decree of contract removal. I revoke all spiritual contracts with earth-based religions, cultures, belief systems, and industries that dominate and control the divine feminine power in our world and create an energetic imbalance that affects every man, woman, and child on this planet. I call forth all ancestors of all soul relations to hold space in the spiritual court of equity. I call to Mother Earth and all her light denizens within all inner and outer space to come forward and occupy the spiritual court of equity. O great mystery, who's the source of all power, I call to you. Come with your sacred synchronicities, so all beings may hold space with unity consciousness. I hereby revoke all contracts of all religions and cultural belief systems that place the feminine in a dominated position of inequality. These include the projections of unequal pay, the inability for a woman to earn a living, own lands or a business, or receive an education of her choosing. I do not consent to the feminist movement that was created and funded by the CIA to separate a woman from her divine feminine power, foster a hatred for men, and create a separation and division in the soul family unit. I hereby revoke all cultural belief systems that create the expectation of a woman's duty to hold an unrealistic burden alone and suffer in silence. I do not consent to all social policing systems that have been put in place to make a woman feel like she is too sensitive, too emotional, or out of control in the attempt at gaslighting a woman's soul to make her feel like she is unstable or insignificant. I hereby revoke all contracts of all cultural belief systems where female children are murdered at birth, sexually mutilated as a supposed rite of passage, sold off into billion-dollar child pornography industry, or trafficked as sex slaves. I do not consent to the porn industry that has been the breeding ground for sexual perversion, spiritual contracts, and the exploitation, degradation, victimization, and bastardization of the divine feminine power. I hereby revoke the following spiritual sexual perversion contracts that are targeted at separating a woman from a divine feminine power. All group sex and polyamorous programs that are all perversions of divine sexuality aimed at making a woman feel like she is somehow not enough. All double standards and cultural belief systems where recreational sexual promiscuity, multiple wives, harems, and mistresses are allowed and celebrated for a man, but cause social ruin for a woman. All programs that create projections that men put on women while masturbating, as well as perverted fantasies that are used as a barrier between the heart space of a man and a woman in a sacred sexual bond. I do not consent to these spiritual sexual perversion contracts. You have no power over me. I hereby declare that Earth Mother is now in dominion with me, as well as all of my soul family and ancestors. I declare I am now free from these projections of sexual perversion and return to the source of innocence as a divine feminine sovereign being. I hereby revoke all contracts and concepts created in innocence or blissfully ignorant states of being. I hereby declare a new form of spiritual and physical cleanliness. I revoke all previous self-created concepts of cleanliness and any perverted attachments to myself. Then this new invocation of cleanliness removes all previous concepts of sacred sexuality, sensuality, and recreational sex. I bring them all back to the 0 point of the fetus in mother's womb. I reconnect all my DNA strands to that of the heartbeat of Earth Mother. The sacred feminine is connected to her heart in her sacred feminine space and does not deny her menstrual cycle. She accepts it as a time of introspection, retrospection, and reflection. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the entertainment and advertising industry that has created programs of self-hatred, low self-esteem, self-medication, self-mutilations, and eating disorders, and etc. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the medical industry that have damaged a woman's health and ability to reproduce according to the natural laws of Earth Mother. Birth control drugs and other chemicals in our food and water and air that cause sterility or over-sexuality, as well as clothing that is damage to a woman's health, such as bras, heels, corsets, bound feet, and tampons. I hereby revoke all birthing contract created through C-sections, pregnancy drugs, prenatal x-rays, vaccinations, incubations, children who are not put on the mother's heart after birth, removal of the placenta, and cutting of the umbilical cord, which can stay intact for up to 4 days to allow for the child's heart bond with the mother and father. I revoke all contracts that force a woman to carry and birth a soul that is not of their co-created divine choice with a selected or bonded sacred masculine. This includes rape victims, teenage pregnancies, and forced and arranged marriages. I return to Earth and Earth Mother, the natural incarnation grid. I now permanently delete the reincarnation grid from my soul existence. I do not consent to all programs aimed at making a woman feel too fat, too thin, too old, too young, too black, too white, too ethnic, too rich, too poor, or any projection at all that makes a woman feel like she is somehow not good enough. I hereby declare that I am more than good enough. I am infinite consciousness. I am God, Goddess incarnate. I am a sovereign being, and I hereby reclaim my divine feminine power in this spiritual court of equity. I call forth all ancestors to honor this reading of my free will and enter it into the Earth Akashic record. For all sentient kind to understand, our freedom comes with the use of free will at all times.
Wow. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, thank you for reading it. Wow, you're the author. And, of course, the images that came to my mind. Wow. And especially throughout the ages, this has happened.
Yep. And
the very first ones to suffer were the men. If a man doesn't have a real woman by his side as a mother, as a sister, as a teacher, as a lover, who is this man? He's so thirsty for real things, and real with a capital R. And throughout the ages, we've had misery. I remember Bernard Lietard, one great friend of the New Earth Nation, great friends with Sasha. He is an economist from Harvard, MIT. When he talks big lectures on the sacred feminine, he says, if you want to know when the feminine is being respected in a town, in a civilization, you cannot find misery. If you find misery, you are sure that the feminine is not being respected. The nurturance of the other is part of the sacred feminine. From all of us, men and women, we have our masculine and feminine side. But it's interesting, as an economist from MIT, one of the fathers of the euro, misery will be an indication. And take a book of history. What you have been reading, what you read to us, echoes from way long ago.
Exactly.
Even didn't breastfeed his kids. His kids were not breastfed by their mother. It was a wet nurse. We have, it kind of became little, small, our dimension here on Earth. And it's not supposed to be so. That sovereignty you described so well is extraordinary.